Wow, wow, wow. Wasn't that a good lead in? We've got a cold, damp snow coming in on the way and the most beautiful upbeat music. Have you heard it before? Maybe not, but maybe so. And the reason you heard that one instead of my lead-in is because I have an incredible guest here that I met one time long, long ago when I first moved to Carbondale. And Senior Matters was having its first fundraising event, and we were having a big Wild West rodeo. And this handsome man, I don't know where I met him on the street, but it wasn't on my corner. So we started talking, and he presented me with a book called First Impressions. And it's memoirs of a hitchhiking honeymoon. And those honeymooners are sitting right here in front of me. They are no longer 18, 19, 20 years old. They're in the senior group just like we are. And they hitchhiked across the U.S. in 3 months. Now, mind you, they were on a honeymoon. And in some areas of this book, and they're on their honeymoon, hitchhiking, backpacks. They slept in the mud. They slept in the rain. They were in the desert with no shade. And Miss Libby, according to John, who wrote the book, always was positive. She always was smiling. She was a gift to him.
I had a great time.
So I'd like to introduce my guest, John Paul Riger. John?
Thank you for having us today, Diane. We're delighted to be here. And hello to all of our friends out there in the KDNK listening audience today.
Happy holidays.
Yeah. Libby, beautiful, smiling. And I see you back when you were a young'un hitchhiking across the country. And now I see you. And yes, she is beautiful.
She sure is.
Yeah. Actually, they're a handsome couple. So let's talk a little bit about this book, Memoirs of a Hitchhiking Honeymoon. Not so much because of your wonderful adventure, but what it brought to you as a couple. You were still together. You had incredible experiences. John, I'm going to let you take the lead on that.
Well, you know, Libby and I met in college, and we fell immediately in love, and we were really disillusioned with college, and so we dropped out. And we ended up working in an assembly line factory on the graveyard shift in Pennsylvania, and we worked for 3 months, and we saved $900. And so kind of to appease both families, you know, it was pretty agreeable that we should get married. So we did. We got married on June 3rd. And then the next day, for lack of any other plans to honeymoon, we had a couple of backpacks and a couple sleeping bags, and we threw in whatever clothes we could carry. And we took our $900 and we basically just set out on foot to hitchhike somewhere. We had no destination in mind. We had no real goal in mind, but one thing led to another, quite literally, and after 3 months, we had covered all of North America, pretty much, and we ended up down in Mexico. We rode trains down through Mexico, and we got back stateside, and we just had a plethora of amazing experiences, and we ended up broke right in Glenwood Springs. And so we've been here ever since. For those of you who know us, we've really been able to carve out a great life here, yeah.
Yeah, you ended up broke, not broken of spirit?
No, not broken of spirit. We just ran out of money. And so it was time to get real. It was fall. It was starting to get cold. But then again, we had a quest the whole way that we were traveling, and we were looking for a mountain. And I remember seeing that mountain when I was in junior high school. And I told Libby, I said, you know, boy, I'd really love to find that mountain. I know I'll recognize it when I see it. And so we covered the Rockies. And then sure enough, one day we got a ride through Carbondale, and when we got let out at Highway 82 and the van pulled out, there it was. And I told Libby, that is the mountain right there.
That mountain, was it something you imagined, or had you seen it?
I had seen it in a picture book of the Rocky Mountains in junior high school. And I wasn't much of a student, but I was good with picture books. And I remember one day I was talking to my buddy, Gordy, and I was leafing through this book, and I found this picture, and I told him, I said, now that right there is where I want to live. I want to live right there. And I thought we had found that mountain once before up in Montana, but it didn't look quite right. And I knew that as soon as I'd see it, I would know it. Mm. And so it was just by a simple twist of fate, we happened to run out of money right where we needed to be at the time.
That mountain, and we all know her, him, Mount Sopris, and it is an image that, it's not an image, it's a reality. It's a reality that we see all the time, and it does give us inspiration. Something that you're doing now in your life, your music. I see you on Facebook. I see that you're out there playing doing your gigs. Mm-hmm. Was that your intention when you came into the Roaring Fork Valley?
I have always played music. I started playing when I was 4 years old. I used to watch my dad play the piano, and we'd sit around the piano and sing. Mm-hmm. And he was a great pianist. Mm-hmm. And then when he was done, you know, it was my turn. And I'd hop up on the bench and I'd sit there and make my noise. And so I basically started playing, I guess it was like 4, and I never stopped. And but I never really had a musical education or music lessons. My dad used to sit in the other room, and as I'd noodle around, he would explain to me, like if I stumbled into something and I was curious about it, he'd say, John, you know what that is? I said, no, what is it? He said, that's an augmented chord. It means the fifth is raised to half. Well, and that made perfect sense to me, right? And so that's kind of how I learned the nomenclature of music. And then I've been playing in bands since I was like 14 years old.
Okay.
And then when you're hanging with other musicians, you know,
okay.
Hey, it just rubs off, you know,
okay.
and if you got the common language. And so I've just been really lucky to be playing with a lot of people. There are a lot of great musicians in this valley, mm-hmm. and I've gotten to play with a lot of them. I still am. I'm still looking forward to opportunities to play with more people. And so, yes, but it was always kind of like music was always kind of like something I did as a passion. I did it regardless of what I had to do. And Libby and I both had plenty of what we have to do to survive. Everybody who lives here has you got a main gig, and then you got something that you do on the side. Well, we're now at a point where Libby can do her wonderful painting, and I can play music, and we're just thrilled that we live a life where we can do these kinds of things these days.
Living a life where you can do what you want to do, what you love to do. And you're here, you're doing it. But your beautiful honeymoon trip had you sleeping in mud. You got terribly ill. You hitchhiked all the way across the country. My question to you, because in reading how you did it, how you got picked up, I want to know, how many trucks did you ride in? I swear, pickup trucks were, Libby's got her mind thinking, John's kind of pointing at her. I cannot believe how many people stopped for you, you know. And I'm sure there were those that went by.
Well, it was a different time where people were more trusting. And we were able to find out if there was any jobs in the area. And it was a great way to explore the West and find a place to live and work.
I never once read any, the word came to me as arguments. I don't want arguments, but you seemed so compatible in that those months that you were out there sleeping in the mud, hungry, out on the highway. She's beautiful, so can you imagine her when she's 18 and 20? You weren't using her as your foil to get a ride, were you?
Well, yeah, and I tell you, we did have a few spats along the way.
Okay, good.
Just by nature of couples.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time distinctly where we got into a thing, and I just decided, you know what? I'm going to go hide in the woods. I'm going to go hide in the weeds over here. It was down in the desert somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so Libby stuck out her thumb, and we were having a hard time getting a ride. It wasn't 3 minutes, and a couple of cowboys pulled over because, of course, they saw Libby right there on the side of the road.
Yeah.
So she ran to the truck, and she said, "Hey, would it be okay with you guys if my husband hops in the back of the truck with us?" He said, "Sure, hop in." And so that was, I was riding on Libby's coattails most of that summer, for sure. Yeah.
That was one of the most flattering days of my life, to hear that truck squeal on its brakes. But that's when you were sick. And
oh, yeah.
That was the first night we were introduced to what was a jalapeno pepper.
Yeah.
We never knew what a jalapeno pepper was before. And,
boy, oh boy, did they play a trick on you, darling.
Well,
tell the story.
Yeah, well, I'd eaten hot peppers, but I never knew anything about a jalapeno pepper before. And so the guy told me, if you'll eat these, you'll feel better in a couple of hours, because I was so sick. I was just so sick. So sure enough, we tried it, and they had cases and cases of hot beer, Southern Arizona hot beer in the back of the truck that had been there all day long. And he said, "You can drink just as much of that beer as you want." And I got to tell you, I never knew hot Budweiser beer could taste so good after eating jalapeno pepper.
They go together, don't
and
you
we
know?
were hanging our mouth over the side of the truck to cool our mouths.
What did it do to your gut, John? Because I know at that time
it didn't work. I remember the next morning waking up, and oh my gosh, I think it was like I could hear Montezuma himself just chuckling with laughter over the desert and my plight. It was terrible, and but they were well intended. I think that would be the way to say.
Yeah. It's an funny read sometimes when I'm getting your experiences, and I'm with Libby in her dutiful, responsible role in this desert. It never, as you've expressed it with her, I've never seen or heard or anything that was other, can I talk any more than this? But smiles, good disposition. She's still
that way. Yeah, she's still that way.
It's quite an exploration of the country.
And self.
Yes.
Yeah.
Libby was fully immersed in those 3 months.
Yeah.
She loved every minute of it. And she told me years later, she said, after I wrote the book, she said, I never really realized, how much pain and turmoil you were in.
Yeah,
she said, I loved every minute of it. I was just so delighted to be where we were and doing what we were doing. Every day, every minute, something different. And so to this day, she carries that same positive spirit. And yeah.
I saw it when I first walked into the room. I saw that, and it just felt so good looking in your beautiful face, because it is an uplifting smile. It's kind of there all the time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. On this trip, it seemed like you could count on her to be there.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. And did you know this about her before you got married? I know you.
Well, there was one time where it became apparent to me how important that was. It was the evening of the 4th of July in 1978, and we had eaten dinner in a Chinese restaurant in, I think it was Tacoma or Vancouver.
Yeah, I think
it was Vancouver. Washington, I think it was. And she'd left her jean jacket, and jean jacket's huge. And so we had walked several blocks away from the restaurant, and I told her, I said, you sit underneath this tree in this park, and I'll go back and get your jean jacket. And as I walked away, I realized, whoa, John. I went back to her, and I said, you have to stay right here. Because if I come back and you're not here, I'll never see you again. We had no way to communicate.
No cell phones.
No cell phones. No, there was no. So I told her, I said, it's very, very important that you stay here. And so, to make a long story short, in the book, as it turned out, about 15 minutes later, she saw me driving across an overpass in a blue Cadillac convertible, waving at her. Hey, honey. It's me, look. And she just gave me a look like, I just can't believe what's just happened here. And sure enough, but anyway, that's how that rolled out. But that was the moment that I realized, I've got a soulmate, and we got to be pretty alert, because we're living in vulnerable times this way. And so, but we managed. And we didn't let the fear, overcome us. And so.
Oh, I just had it, and it slipped through my ear.
No, I do that too.
We had a few little minor miracles happen that really kept me positive and going, and knowing that this was meant to be. And one was when we hiked up the Olympic mountain range, and John was sick that day too, and it was all fogged in, and all we could see was a tiny little trail, and we stayed on that tiny little trail, and we decided to set up our tent on a flat spot. And so we came upon a flat spot, and we set it up, and in the morning I woke up and I opened the tent flap, and it was the only flat spot for miles and miles, as far as you could see, because the fog had lifted, and it was just so spectacularly beautiful. And we saw some Roosevelt elk, and then there was a few other miracles too, that Multnomah Falls. When we first met, I was lucky enough to have my own room in an international house at college, and there was a picture of a falls on the wall, and I didn't know where it was or what the name was, and I told John, wouldn't you just love to be in that picture? It's so beautiful. Well, we wound up there. An older couple took us out of our way to see Multnomah Falls. So that was another miracle.
I'm watching as you are talking, and I hear you, and I look over to John, and he's watching you, listening to you, and has a big smile on his face.
He remembers.
Yeah, well, he's not that old yet, Today, John, what are you doing?
I'm playing piano. I'm playing a lot of music, and I'm having a great time doing it. And Libby's painting. She paints while I play piano all day.
And I go to the gigs and I take pictures, and I just have
She's an incredible photographer. She's very supportive of all of our groups. We've got some really fun groups going around right now. And I'm gearing up for Christmas. I've been playing a lot of Christmas music lately, and so I'll be playing locally at some things around here for the holidays. And I love to do that. I love to bring my music to people, and I'll be playing at the Redstone Inn on Christmas Eve. I think this will be like the the 22nd consecutive year, except last year. We couldn't do it because of COVID.
Right.
And I'll be playing up at the Glenwood Caverns Adventure Park after Christmas for a couple of 3 nights up there. And I love playing up there. I just love the park. And then I'll be playing Friday night in Aspen with a duo with Chris Harrison on saxophone. We'll be playing up there.
Oh, Chris.
Right. Last night I played at Sammy's Steakhouse and Rifle. So, yeah, I got some good gigs coming up. But I've never been busier in my life as I am right now. Being a musician is a lot of work. And I've just kind of learned to appreciate that that's what it takes, you know. I'm just loving it, though.
I can see it. I can see it, and it makes me feel good because I felt like in reading your book, I was adopting you and watching you go through what you were going through and felt connected to you. And the book, again, just because it's First Impressions, John Paul Riger, and Libby. My goodness, you are a landscape architect today?
Oh, artist.
Artist.
Oil painter.
Oil, of course. Guess what I hear? Can you believe it? Do you hear the music?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, all my friends out in the Roaring Fork Valley, and those of you that I don't know, this is holiday time. This is the season of enriching our spirit, loving our neighbor, and feeling the blessed environment that we are in. We care for it. We love it. It supports us. All of us. Got my little doggie out in the car. She's waiting for Mama. John Paul, Libby, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Diane,
Thank you.
It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
And we want to wish you and everyone else a very, very Merry Christmas this year.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone. Snow, water, the crystal is gonna be sparkling.
Yeah.